Hi, it's Paulette Downey again. I am so sorry. It really, this is part three of the conventional, this is part three of the unconventional God. I knew that this was going to be a lengthy message. I knew it was. I didn't know it was going to be that lengthy, but I knew that it was going to be lengthy. And so, you know what? You take it in when you can. You don't have to take it in all at once. Just take it in when you can. As you can see, this is another day. I had to go yesterday. I had to go. It was like that was almost 2 hours for the two of those combined. So yeah. But anyway, so I'm going to do my continuation. I'm going to try to end this and at the same time tie it to what I said yesterday as much as possible. Basically, what I was saying, I was talking about us being weary or us being very aware and on guard when we're sharing stuff with people, when we're sharing our information with people. Like I said, when it obviously, like we do share with close people, people who we're close to. Sometimes, though, sometimes you can't even share with the people who you are closest with, simply because they may not understand what it is that you are going through, or that God is asking you to do for Him, or the choices that you are making, the choices and the decisions that you are making based on what God is telling you. Sometimes it's just best to keep those to yourself. Like I said, with those who really love you and who are close to you, and if they disagree with you, it tends to be because they haven't seen anything like that. It's nothing to tear you down. They can tear you down as a result of it, but it's not out of malice or out of trying to hurt you or destroy you. It's just simply that through the lenses that they're looking through, they've never seen anything like that, and it doesn't look conventional. And most people look at things in a very conventional way, and things that they have experienced and the people around them have experienced. But you do have people who intentionally try to destroy what it is that God has for you. It's just the truth. You're going to meet people like that. We all at some point we encounter people like that, and we just need to be aware when we are dealing with people who. You can just kind of tell, like the questioning when they, you may be speaking to them about one thing, and you feel comfortable with them, and then they start asking you certain questions about other things, and somehow you share certain parts of your story simply because they feel safe and comfortable, and then they expand on the questioning, and then they critique things that you're not even asking about, and those are red flags. Like when you see that you're reaching out for one thing, but what you're reaching out for, what you're talking about, or what you're asking about is being ignored, and then what you are not asking about is being critiqued, and not only critiqued, but really like um, scrutinized, and then on top of being scrutinized, more delving, more questioning, more curiosity, more questions about things that you really is none of their business. And that's something that you just don't care to share. So we have to be aware that there are people out there who, don't have good intentions for us as well. But, like I said, there is both sides to it, and that's why it is always good to sometimes just walk in silence, because there are seasons of silence. That God just wants us to work in silence, and just keep it to yourself, just keep it between you and God, and just try not to share. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and there are some people who, will deliberately try to derail you, if they can. But that's not everybody, and that is some people. Like I said, some people that it's just, they're the lens that they're looking through is a very conventional lens, and they just don't understand the ways of God and how God moves and how God works. I wanted to share something with respect to when I was talking about the misconceptions that people have about the homeless community. And one of the misconceptions, I forgot, like I was supposed to actually include it in the piece that I had spoke on about misconceptions that people have about homeless people, but I did not mention it at that time. And I feel it's very important because God brought it to me. And so I just want to clear it. I feel it's important that I do mention it, even though this topic is not about it's not about homeless people, but again, it is about ignorance on our part, and looking at things a certain way, seeing things from our ivory tower experience, and not knowing, what we are talking about, not knowing because we haven't gone through what other people have gone through. And so, like I said, I was an ivory tower girl when it came to the homeless community, and I did have a lot of misconceptions about how homeless people lived. And once being homeless, of course, that's when I got my course in the misconceptions and the lies and the things that are just untrue. So as I was talking about, when I was talking about when homeless people, when they ask for money and when they want money, and how, for myself, and I know for many people, because I've heard many people say this, and they said the exact same thing that I said, that, I'll give the money, and if it's for food, sometimes I'll just buy food. If they don't want to, if they don't want me to buy the food, then I know, because hey, I read minds, hey, I know, I get it. They want it for drugs. I just know, because you know what? I know everything. So that was my attitude. And I know a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say this. Like I heard a lot of people say this exact same thing that I said and that I thought. And I'm just being very honest. Um, in most cases, it's not true. Sometimes it is true. In most cases, it's not. In most cases, it absolutely is not true. And and sometimes, like I said, it's just they want money for other things. It's not for drugs. And it may not be even for food, but it may be for, like I said, to do the laundry, to buy laundry detergent. It may be things for toiletries, even though you can get toiletries from shelters, from various, outreaches that work in the community for homeless people, as well as in Atlanta, in Atlanta, they had like this huge kind of like outreach where people would come, at certain parks, like people, like just regular citizens. They would come, Saturday and Sunday was like the big day, and you would have like many citizens, drive up with all types of things. It could be like toiletries, blankets, clothing, food, like everything, like you name it. It was big in Atlanta. That they have. They have the infrastructure for something like that. In New York, of course, they have it, but it's more like it's indoors, and In Atlanta, it's indoors too, but in Atlanta, a lot of it is outdoors. Again, they have the infrastructure. New York does not have the infrastructure for that what Atlanta has. It's just, they can go to parks, they can go to certain places and do that. So you would have, these individuals, these citizens, these just beautiful citizens, giving to the homeless community and giving lots of toiletries and, things like shampoo and bars of soap and things like that. But with the toiletries and with all these things that they give, there's certain things. So there are other toiletries that we as human beings need that aren't included in those toiletry kits. The certain types of clothing that we need that you can't get from a clothing closet. Sometimes coats. There are certain things. There are so many things like boots. There are a number of things that homeless people need money for. So when they're asking for money, um, in most cases, it's not drugs. Like there are some homeless people who live in cars, and so they need it for gas. There are homeless people who need money. Another big one, another really big one. So gas is one, and like I said, laundry, everything related to laundry, and also transportation by subway, by bus. That's a big one. That is a huge one, and that's another reason why homeless people need money. They need money so that they can go to certain places that they need to go to. Yes, some of these outreach organizations provide more so in Atlanta than in New York with, say, like the passes, like with the what transportation passes. But in both cases, they do need money to get on the subway. They do need money to get on the bus, like to go to their appointments, to go to, like some of them are going for job interviews, for various things. That's a major, major thing. I know in New York, what they've been trying to do in New York, a lot of the shelters and they've been trying to get their donors to buy passes, like say maybe a $10 pass, $20 pass, a $30 pass, and donate it and to the various shelters so that those could be given out to the homeless community. That is a big, big need. So there are many reasons why homeless people need money, but people just naturally assume that it is just for drugs. If it's not for food, then it has to be drugs. And those can be the only two things that people need money for, homeless people need money for. And that is a lie. It is a myth. It is a lie. Yes, there are some people, who will take the money and they will spend it on drugs. And I'm going to talk on that in just a second. Since I'm delivering this, I want to deliver it in its entirety so that people out there can understand exactly, the misconception with this whole money thing that people seem to have when it comes to people being homeless. And so throughout the entire year, because like I said, I was that ivory tower person. I thought it was either they need it for food, they only need it for food, couldn't, think outside of my box, I just couldn't. Because I had never experienced it before. And that's why it's so important when we hear people share, when people give us certain stories that we have never experienced, it's best to just keep our mouths quiet, say nothing, and show compassion and be empathetic. But I digress. So for the year and a bit that I was in Atlanta, when I was living in shelters, we had classes that we had to attend, and like some of them, Christian based, and we would have speakers come in who were like Christian speakers, and throughout like the entire theme, like whenever they would speak, and of course we would participate, it was great, like just having that teaching. You can never know too much, you can never have too much information. I had 3 months of just like close to 4 months of just people just pouring into me, and me just learning a lot from like from different people about like just whole bunch of things, related to psychology and, like giving, like just a whole bunch of things. So one of the things that they would talk about is when, because like I said, it's Christian, like a Christian organization as well. So one of the things that they would talk about is, and we just, because we're having conversations, we're just talking about things. And so just like how I'm talking to you now about the homeless community, we have a whole bunch of girls who, were homeless and, living in shelters. I was with them. And so, of course, we have discussions. And, some of us were like, we'll give money, but we're not going to give money. We're not going to give money if it's for drugs. And like some of the speakers would say, the Bible, like really, is very specific that if you're going to give, you give. You don't question why, like if somebody asks you for something, they're in need of something. If you are going to give, you're supposed to give. Now, I know there were like probably like 2 people and myself who couldn't quite wrap our brain around that. Like everyone else got it. But for some reason, we just could not get that, okay, no, we don't want to give it to them if it is for drugs. I don't mind giving it for anything else, but if I know it's for drugs, I'm not going to give. And so they were all saying, no, you are supposed to give regardless. You are supposed to, like, if someone comes to you for a need, you're not supposed to question it. You're not supposed to sit there and analyze it and say, okay, I don't mind giving it, but you know what? Why? And if you're doing this with it and you're doing that with it, then I'm not going to give it to you. If you are going to give, like if you see someone who is telling you that they're in need, we are supposed to give. And whatever they do with it, they do with it. But God will bless us for it. And I couldn't wrap that around my brain. Like I said, I didn't have a problem with giving it for anything else. And of course, I was homeless, and I understood that a person who's homeless needs it more for just food, because food is probably one of the things that is available to the homeless community. Like I said on my last message, when you're homeless, you may want it for certain things like produce. You may want just a change of meal. You may be looking for certain cooked, like meals that are cooked a certain way. You want it for like a smoothie or certain soft drinks that you can't get from shelters. And so, drinks were a lot. I'm not talking alcoholic. I'm talking about just beverages, like healthy beverages, smoothies, things like that, things that you can't get from a shelter, things that you can't get from, regular citizens, driving up in their cars and providing you with nutritious meals. There are just certain things you cannot get from shelters. And so when, people need money, they need it for all of those things. When, the homeless, when they're asking for money, they're asking it for all those things. But yes, you do have that segment, that group of people who are asking for it to buy drugs. And so I couldn't wrap my head around giving it if they wanted it for drugs. So it was very interesting because throughout, so then after I stayed in that shelter, I was in another shelter, and it was like the same theme that was coming at me, and I just couldn't get it. So then for the next 5 months, like after I was in a couple of shelters for the next 5 months straight, I was living on the streets like on an everyday basis. As so what would happen is I would have, I'd have men come up to me at night and ask me for money. Now they can see I'm homeless. Like they're coming up to me like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're asking me to give them money. And like I'm homeless, it's clear. Like I'm sleeping on the streets here. I'm sleeping on a bench. I'm sleeping in like under like under a roof. Where some kind of like major like say convention or whatever building is. But you can see they know, just like I know they're homeless, and so they're asking me for money. And it's like like really you're asking the wrong person here. Um, and they'd ask me and they'd say and I'm going to I need it for drugs. And I'd say, well, I don't have money, but in all honesty, if I had money, I wouldn't give it to you because of what you just told me. So I kept encountering that. Now, every Monday, there was this like women's only kind of like club for us women who were living on the streets. So we would go in like around 7 o'clock in the morning. We were able to have a shower. We were able to get like coffee. We were able to get like really good meals. We were able to like just gather together and talk. And it was every single Monday we would have this. So I had been going to that. The only time like when I went to Atlanta, I went there a few times, and then I was staying in shelters. So when I was staying in shelters, I didn't go because I was staying in shelter. So I had my shower, I had everything, I had all my conveniences. But then after when I started um, living on the streets again. So when I went from one shelter, then a couple of weeks with not being in a shelter, then I went. Then when I went into my next shelter, then I didn't go. I think maybe a couple of times I did go to when I was in the second shelter. Too much details there. But then after that, and then when I was just living every day on the streets, and then it became a regular routine. Every Monday, I would go to this kind of like women's only. It was at the church, and women's only, like like for homeless women. And so we'd go there, like I said, 7 o'clock. Have your shower. You could sleep there. You could be there until 12 o'clock, till noon. And so, and the people, there was a pastor, and then two other people who, like they were just regular citizens who volunteered. Then there was another pastor of that church as well, who were there, and they were fantastic. And so, going there, of course, you connect. I connected with the women who there. Like you get to know them, you become friends with them, you start talking, and so then we would talk about the misconceptions that the public has about homeless people. So everything that I brought up, we would bring up in the conversation, they say that, we want it for drugs, or they say that we said all that, and they don't realize that we want it for laundry, we want it for transportation, we want it for this and that. There's so many needs that aren't being met, and that's why we want it. And so, so as we, have these conversations, of course, like the pastors and everything would join in. So then one time, the pastor, and I don't know, I probably was the one who brought this up. I'm going to be honest with you. I probably was the one who started this whole thing when we were talking about it. And I brought up, but, like, not for drugs, I wouldn't give for drugs or something like that. And so the pastor, one of the pastors who was there, he then shared his story with us. And I mean, he shared his story with us in the past, but because that particular thing was brought up about, okay, yeah, I'm not going to give money to a homeless person if they're going to use it to buy drugs. So this pastor was homeless for 18 years, like 18 years. He was a drug addict. And he said that's the wrong thinking. And the people who were with him, and the other three people who were with him, they were never homeless. But they agreed with him. They chimed in with him. And I think some of the women who were part of my group actually chimed in as well. And he was saying that during his 18 years of being homeless, and he was an addict. He was an addict. And he said that there were times like when he got the money, like because he was going into like a withdrawal, and he said that when you're going into a withdrawal, when you're in that state, when you're going into it, and if you don't get the drugs, like you could die, like you could literally die. And so he was saying that you should actually, like, that kind of thinking is wrong, because if that person comes to you and they need that money for drugs, you could be saving their life. And not only that, like even an extension of that, like if someone comes to you and they ask you for $20 and you suspect that they want that money to spend on drugs, and like say you don't give it to them, and say that the withdrawal and what they're going through is so like so strong, they could end up hurting somebody else to try and get that money. So if you gave them that money, then you would not only be helping them, but you would prevent them from hurting someone else. So it's almost like a domino effect, that by us giving to someone, like if we are going to give, we give, and we don't question why we are giving. We don't question the individual. The person is homeless. The person doesn't have any money. We don't question it. We just give, and God will bless us. So I had this pastor who had gone through this. This pastor has an amazing ministry. He has an amazing outreach for the homeless community. I can't think where we would be, like myself and those other women, had that man not had the ministry that he had. Like us going there on Monday, every Monday morning from 7 to 12 noon, made such a difference in my life. I mean, I got to shower, I got clothes from there. Some of the clothes, I think one of the clothes I still have with me. I think a few of them I still have with me. And it was from them. They were brand new clothes that I got from them. They would give us like brand new clothes, and and how that ministry, which he created, the man who actually was a drug addict and who was homeless for 18 years. He was the one who started that ministry. And not only did he start that ministry for women, he has one for men. And then he has a street one where he has a van, and the van has showers. And, he drives to certain communities where the homeless are, and the homeless can have showers in those vans. And it's just amazing. And the partnerships that he forms with other communities and organizations and companies for food. And clothing and all different types of stuff. I don't believe this is happening. I don't believe this is happening. It's the alarm. So I'm going to go until they kick me out. I'm going to continue saying, and I hope that you don't mind this background music that you're hearing. But anyway, I don't want to do a number 4. I really don't. I really, really don't. But anyway, he has like an amazing ministry. And that's because people gave money to him when he was going through a withdrawal. So imagine if people did not give him money, he could be dead. And so, but because he's alive, he became a pastor, and his ministry for the homeless, it's huge. Like, it's a huge ministry that he has in Atlanta. And like I said, the other 3 people who were never homeless, they agreed. They actually agreed. Like, they agreed, like they knew what they were, like they actually went through it, and they weren't homeless and they weren't drug addicts, but they understood the concept of, if you are going to give, and like I said, one of them is a pastor as well for that church, but they understand the concept. if you are going to give money, give it. Make no excuses. If you're going to give, you're going to give. You don't know what that $20 that that person who may be using it for drugs, you don't know how much you could save that person's life or maybe save someone else's life. So that one act could be a blessing in so many ways, and God is going to bless you. Okay. Okay, so we're good. We're good. I don't have to leave. I don't have to leave. I don't want. I don't want to have to do another one of these. Not for the unconventional God one anyway. So anyway, so yeah. So as I was saying, you know what? The lights kind of went off, and normally you can just wave it, but it's not. It's not happening. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm just gonna because I want the light on. I want the light on. Wait. Okay. Okay, I want the light. Sorry. Sorry for my stepping away for a second. So anyway, so yes, as I was saying, yeah, so giving that money, we look at it as, yeah, we don't want to support their habit, but it's not about supporting their habit. It's not about supporting their habit. It's about keeping them alive, and it's about possibly saving somebody else from whatever could happen as a result of them not getting it from the first person they came to. And so when they said it, and like I said, there were women there who were also chiming in, and it was like, oh goodness, that took a whole year. That took almost a year. And it's so funny because that was close to Christmas when that registered. And then I came here in January. So maybe it was like God wanted me to get that in my brain. And then he's like, okay, you finally got it. So now you can go to New York. So it was like, because it was around Christmas. It was very close to Christmas. When it was, yeah, so it was, I remember it was around Thanksgiving when he said that, very close to Christmas. So it was like, after that, then, I was gone like a few weeks later, and then I was off to New York. But it took almost an entire year for me to actually be able to understand and get what not only he said, not only what those other three people said, the ladies that were there, and all of the other women when I was in shelters, the speakers, what they were trying to speak on and address and point out. If we're going to give, we're going to give. We don't make excuses for giving. I understand that it is our money, but ultimately it is God's money. It is coming. God has opened a way for us to get the money, and he wants us to be giving, like he wants us to give, to help people out in various ways. And he wants us to help out drug addicts as well. So even though you may suspect that they're going to take that money and buy drugs and purchase drugs, you may be saving that person's life, and you may be saving someone else's life, or saving them from injury or whatnot, because of preventing that person from going into a very strong withdrawal. Depending on the type of personality, we don't know what could happen. So if we're going to give, we're going to give, but these are the misconceptions. These are some of the misconceptions that people have about the homeless community. And I did want to bring up the money one, because the money one is a big one. That, homeless people do not have, like a couple of reasons why they need money. And I'm not saying that, like all of the reasons. There are some reasons. There are some. Don't get me wrong. I was homeless, so I know. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I know. So I do also know that there are some homeless people out there who want that money for no good. I do know that. I know that because I was homeless. I had, front row seat to seeing all the various things and ways, in tricks, and being slick and everything. So I've I'm an eyewitness to all of it. So I do know that there are some things that aren't in good intentions, even with things like the like passes and everything, like the metro passes. You will get some of them that are going to sell them, and this is just another thing. And so, like passes, like say the transportation passes, some of them are going to sell them. They're going to sell them to make money. In Atlanta, they would give you a lot of passes, and some of them would sell them. But does that mean most? But most people won't. So why should we be penalized because of you know, a few corrupt people? We shouldn't. And they're still, you still have to give them to them. And that's kind of the same concept with when you are giving money to homeless people. You are going to be giving money to some people who are not going to use that money for necessities or for things that they need, and they're going to use it for more inferior, I can't say it, and I've said it before on here, but for things that may be a little more scrupulous. I'll just say that. You're going to get that. You're going to get that, but that doesn't mean that other people who genuinely need the money, and they genuinely need, because I know for myself that I genuinely needed the money, and when people would give to me, and I wouldn't ask, like they would just give to me. So I was blessed that way. Um, but yes, but that's a major misconception, that we should give if somebody is a drug addict, and if we know that they're going to spend it on drugs. And it is wrong for us to think that we shouldn't give it to them because they're going to spend it on drugs, because you don't know. Like I said, that pastor who was a drug addict for years, and there was another pastor as well, and he worked in a shelter, and he was a drug addict for years. He lived on the streets, and I just think about the amazing work that they are doing for the homeless community, and for people who like suffer from any kind of drug abuse. And but like I said, this pastor who was saying that, his ministry is awesome. He has an awesome, amazing, huge ministry. He's doing wonderful work for the homeless community. And when he said that, and the way when he explained it, and like I said, those three people, they vouched for him, and then there were like a few women who actually chimed in and said, yeah, like you just, when you give, you don't question the individual as to what they're going to do it. If you're going to give, you're going to give from your heart. We are supposed to give from our heart. The Bible does stipulate that when we give, we are supposed to just give from our heart. We're not supposed to question that. I mean, if we're even given to ministries, and there are some ministries who are not stewarding the money that the parishioners are giving correctly. But the parishioners are giving, and so it doesn't matter, like wherever you give, whatever charity you give to, even when you're giving to charities, when you're giving to organizations, not all charities and organizations are like shepherding, and they're not using the monies the way that they are supposed to. I'm not saying all of them, but you do. There are cases where there are some organizations who are not stewarding. I said shepherding. They are not stewarding the money the way that they are supposed to steward it, but they're still receiving the money. So just because maybe one organization is not stewarding it the way that they should, but 9 others are, that those 9 other companies or not-for-profits should not be affected or penalized because of the one. You're going to get this everywhere. So, but people still give. You're still given to these organizations, and you don't know where the money is going in some cases. We don't know. We don't know. But we're giving because we're giving from the goodness of our heart. And that's how we should be doing when we are giving money to the homeless. We should be giving from the goodness of our heart. We should not be questioning, well, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to spend it on drugs? Are they going to spend it on women? Are they going to do this and that? We should not be, we should not come at it like that. We should just say, they have a need. I have the money. I'm being led to give. Here's the money. Here's the $20. Here's the $100. Whatever it is, I'm going to give, and God will bless you for that. Regardless of what they do, God will bless you because we are to give, and we don't know just whose life we are saving in the process. But everywhere, organizations, everywhere, we don't know. When we're giving money, we don't know where that money is being funneled. We don't know. And if we were to question where the money is being funneled for everything we give to, we would end up not giving because we would end up, like over analyzing and saying, okay, well, hey, it looks like they're giving here, but you know what? I heard a sermon last week and he said something about this, and maybe they could be putting some of the money there. Like we would overanalyze and not give our money to anyone. So if you're giving, the homeless is a charity too. They're a charity as well. And if you're going to give, you give. And you give from the goodness of your heart. Don't question why you're giving, just give. So yeah, that was very important, because that was my analogy. And I was supposed to add that on. It seems like this is a message in itself. It seems like this one is just a message in itself. And maybe that's why God had it end the way it did. Now this, basically, that was supposed to be said. God wanted me to say this. Like this was something I was supposed to say. So it was probably good that I didn't remember to speak on it yesterday, because I can see that this is a lengthy piece in itself. Like this is a topic on its own. But back to the unconventional God, and this is it. He's unconventional. No one would have thought that God would want us to just give, and regardless of who we're giving to. But this is true. This is true. We're doing it with organizations. We're doing it with not-for-profits. Same goes. Exact same concept. It goes. Unconventional God, what you're going through, unconventional as it is, continue on the route. Get roots, get some serious roots in God. Continue your walk with God. Continue to pursue God. Continue to draw closer to God. And, some of you out there, you're hearing the voice of God clearly. You are clearly hearing the voice of God. Trust that you are hearing the voice of God. You do not need to go and get confirmation for things that you know are coming from God. That makes absolutely no sense. And actually, if anything, like I know for myself, if I'm going to get confirmation about what I know is coming from God, I usually go back to God and say, God, can you confirm what you said to me? God does not have a problem with you asking him to confirm what he's already said to you. So if you're going to get confirmation from anyone, ask God to give you confirmation. So he may give you confirmation by you hearing his voice again, or he may give you confirmation by a sermon or by someone that you speak with or whatnot. But you don't even have to ask. Like you don't have to go and ask anyone or tell anyone your situation. You know you heard it from God. You want a confirmation. When I came to New York, I asked God for a confirmation, and he gave me a confirmation. And then he gave me a confirmation every single day after he gave me the second confirmation. So when you're hearing the voice of God, ask him for confirmation. You don't need to insult him and go and seek someone else when you know that you heard his voice. But he's training you. He's training you to depend on him and to know when he's speaking to you and to depend on him, because he is going to lead you in the right direction. And if you go and to this person and that person and that person all the time, you're going to lose out on what it is God has for you. And so just, continue on your route. And for those of you who are in training to hear the voice of God more clearly, continue to press into God, continue with meditation and with praise and with worship and all these types of things. And again, ask for confirmation and be very careful. This is for all of us. Be very careful who you say what to. And when like if someone says something to you that is wrong, you can say, well, you know what, it's a matter of your opinion. This is a matter of, your opinion. This is your opinion. Like you have a right to your opinion. You can say that. You have a right to your opinion. Leave it like that and let it go. So if you see that they're still asking you different questions about something that you haven't even brought up, then you know that there's something really suspicious when they just keep probing. And because it's a matter, you're entitled to your opinion. That should end it. But when you see that they're asking other questions about why this and why that and why did you do this and why did you do that, and it's like, I didn't even come here for any of this, and you're asking me all these questions, these invasive questions, really, and I didn't come. You know that is not coming from God. So just be aware of things like that. So then you know that this is not of God, and this is someone who is not for you. But there are people, like I said, there are people who genuinely, they love you, and they just, you know what, they don't want you to lose out. They don't want you to be hurt. They love you. They love you. And, they're just telling you it from their perspective and what it is that they're going through. So this is going to cut off soon. So I'm going to try and be very brief and end this thing here. Yeah, if you're not a follower of Jesus Christ, I highly implore you become one. It will be the best decision that you ever made. Give Jesus Christ a year of your life. Commit to him fully. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. You can't come. None of us are perfect. But I am saying that, the world is getting worse. The people are becoming more deceptive. I don't mean to, put this doom and gloom, but it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. And so you need God. You need God in order to guide you. You need God in order to help you, make decisions. God knows things that it's impossible for us to know. And he will make you aware of things that you can't even see. God is, oh my gosh, he's such a good God. He is an amazing God. He loves you so much, and he wants to be in your life, and he wants he wants to bless you he wants to bless you. And so he has a purpose for you. He has a purpose for you. He has a life for you that is so much greater than the life that you have for yourself. He wants you to be more blessed than you want to be blessed. But you're not going to know this unless you commit to him, confess that you're a sinner, confess that Jesus Christ died on the cross for us. Give a 180, commit to him, fully commit. You don't have to clean yourself up. He'll clean you up. He'll clean you up along the way. It's not going to be all at once, but just read your Bible daily, pray daily, watch some shows, maybe